Alrighty, welcome into episode number 52 of Off the Clock Sports. Brandon Cook here, and Braedon McNamara is going to join me today. And I don't think there's any better of a person to join me today other than you, Braedon, because we had quite a blockbuster that you are not happy about in the NFL the other day, as Jalen Ramsey has been traded to the Los Angeles Rams for 2 first-round picks and a 4th-round pick. First off, welcome back to the show. How you doing today?
Thanks for having me, man. I've been better, obviously, but I'm excited to be here, and I'm ready to get into it.
Absolutely, man. Like I said on the opening there, just Jalen Ramsey of the Rams from the Jaguars. It's funny, man. He was on the injury report there for a few weeks. Wife had a baby, back issue looming. He gets traded to the LA Rams, and he's nowhere to be seen on the injury report. Just did not practice. Personal was the reason for his first day with the Rams, and now all of a sudden he seems to be good to go. And Sean McVay said he's going to play Week 7. It doesn't sound like he's going to miss any time with the LA Rams, and he'll just jump right into the fold of things. But your initial reaction to that trade on Tuesday night of Jalen Ramsey to the Los Angeles Rams from the Jacksonville Jaguars?
It was almost like when LaShawn McCoy got traded from the Eagles to the Buffalo Bills. I just looked at my phone and I was like, what? Like, this isn't real life. Like, and then when I saw that it was real and I realized my brain finally clued in that, no, this is real, dummy. I looked and I saw what the compensation was, and it was 2 first-round picks and then a 4th-round pick. And I was like, in what world could the Eagles not have pulled this off? Like, even if you wanted to give them one of our awful corners, like, for example, Ronald Darby, Sidney Jones, Craig James was a practice guy. I know they wouldn't probably take him in a trade, but who cares? We need some Avonte Maddox. Send them away to Jacksonville. We could even have thrown in a player with all that. In what world could we not have done that? Every blog, every Twitter person I read was an advocate for the Eagles, all said Howie Roseman has been calling the Jaguars for weeks about Jalen Ramsey. And the Rams just picked up the phone with like 2 firsts and a 4th, and they're like, done. Click. Like, absolutely insane. Not only do we not have Jalen Ramsey, I know we're getting Jalen Mills back, which is like, woo, great. Like, another guy who's going to be one of those, the quarterback throws the ball over the receiver and the receiver can't catch it because it was an overthrown ball. He's going to get up and go, like, no, that was on me. Like, another guy that doesn't play coverage well whatsoever, but he will get up and act like, yeah, it was because of the coverage that the quarterback overthrew the ball. Like, get out of here. So we get him back. Woohoo! And we miss out on Jalen Ramsey. Like, what a great day to be an Eagles fan. And not only on top of that, we got a guy, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who was drafted in the 2nd round before DK Metcalf. You know how great Arcega-Whiteside has been? He's been about as great as a fucking just... I don't even know. It's just so aggravating. Like, he's been like a part of 13 offensive snaps in like the past like 3 games, and he doesn't produce any offense whatsoever. But hey, he was a better pick than DK Metcalf, who's been an absolute beast for the Seattle Seahawks. And Matt Collins, another 2nd-round pick from the year before. Another wide receiver who gets no targets in Doug Peterson's offense and has been very bad. Guy who drops the ball. Arcega-Whiteside dropped a game-winning touchdown pass in the 2nd game of the year against, the 3rd game of the year against the Detroit Lions. Woo, that was great. And also Nelson Aguilar dropped a game-winning touchdown pass in Atlanta. Boom. 3 wide receivers we've drafted have been bums. The cornerbacks we've drafted in the past, I don't know how many years, have been awful. Sidney Jones was supposed to be a stud, and he's been getting torched 24/7. The guy has a hamstring injury just from getting out of bed. He's like, oh, pulled my hammy. Oh, sorry, I'm going to be out this week. He has 1 snap on the field. He was tying his shoelaces. Oh, there goes the hammy again. Sorry, Sidney, you're going to have to go sit on the bench. This guy can't stay on the field. It's so hideous. We haven't had a cornerback since freaking Asante Samuel, and that was 2008. It's been 11 years, and we haven't had one decent one. I like Rasul Douglas, but he can't run with the guys who are fast. He's really physical, but he just has no speed to him whatsoever. It's Howie Roseman has he's made trades that have really have worked out. We got Alshon Jeffrey, who was a true number 1 wide receiver, something we really hadn't had in a long time since basically the Deshaun Jackson and the Jeremy Maclin days. And then obviously we got Deshaun Jackson back, but he's not like his drafting skills really haven't been that great. Andre Dillard's looked pretty good at offensive tackle, at left tackle. He's actually now playing this week instead of Jason Peters. And he's looked good in the spots where he's come in, but now he's getting his first NFL start. So we'll see how he does. But like Derek Barnett, he was drafted in the first round, and like I know like they're always like, oh, he's top in quarterback pressures. But like, what does that mean? Like he just got close to the quarterback and made him throw the ball a little bit sooner to his wide receiver who made the catch. Like, yippee! Like, good for you. Like you got almost close to a sack.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Thank
like,
you.
Yeah, like it's just like I don't see I don't like this guy broke the SEC record for sacks in the season, which was held by Reggie White. So when we drafted him, I was like, oh, this guy's going to be a stud. It really hasn't been. Howie Roseman's drafting ability has really started to like kind of sink in as not that great, especially when we took a guy like Donnell Pumphrey and a guy like Matt Breida, who's tearing it up right now, went undrafted. And it's just like Donnell Pumphrey was supposed to be the next Darren Sproles, and he's like not even on our team anymore. It's this whole Jalen Ramsey missing out thing. Like I know there's other corners out there, so like maybe Howie is just like, you know what, I didn't want to pay two first round picks and a fourth round pick for Jalen Ramsey, and I kind of get it from the perspective of you're really mortgaging your future for that, because the Rams won't have a first round pick from 2017 to 2021. So I mean, like that's 5 years. Like it's just like without a first round pick, that's kind of huge. I mean, unless you're just stealing everyone else's picks, like when they disgruntled, I guess it doesn't matter. But and also the Rams seem to be like, just filled with all this money that I guess nobody else has, because they can just take they're just gonna sign Jalen Ramsey to whatever he wants after they sign Todd Gurley to whatever he wants, and Aaron Donald and Jared Goff. But I guess it doesn't matter because they're the LA Rams. But what it really comes down to is like I haven't really trusted the drafting ability of the Philadelphia Eagles. We haven't really drafted anyone that like has stood out other than Carson Wentz. Really, like Carson Wentz was like the one slam dunk kind of pick, and outside of that, it's just kind of been like, eh. So it's a tough day right now. Maybe Chris Harris Jr. is someone we can get for a little bit cheaper, or maybe Patrick Peterson if he's available. Maybe he trades for AJ Green. We get another wide receiver. I don't know. But it's just disheartening to see that another team gets that when it's such a big need for our team. We're getting torched. Like Stephon Diggs had like 2 50-yard touchdowns in like one quarter against us last week. And like Kirk Cousins had like 250 yards of passing in the first half. Like it was just a blowout. He just like play action pass through a deep ball, and like the guy was wide open. Like it's not even like they were contested and they went up and got them. They were just wide open. And it's a breakdown in coverage. It's the lack of personnel to make those plays. It's poor defensive scheme from Jim Schwartz, and it's just not having the players there to make the plays. And that really at the end of the day comes down to Howie Roseman, because he's the one who puts the players out there, picks the players for the team. I mean,
so when the MLB trade deadline passed, I came on with Troy, and I was very critical of Brian Cashman, who's the GM of the New York Yankees. I thought that, you watch the Houston Astros make the trades, and, they get a guy like Zach Greinke, who at the very last minute, and bolster the rotation with like a Verlander and a Cole already. And I came on and I said, this down the road could cost the New York Yankees in the postseason. I kind of feel that way about Howie Roseman on Tuesday after letting Jalen Ramsey. And like you said, there's still some corners out there, and obviously that's a team need. I mean, going back to even, you're wearing the Super Bowl jersey from a couple of years ago. I mean, Brady threw 500 yards in a loss. I mean, They got very lucky that the offense was just able to respond, because had Nick Foles, missed 1 or 2 throws, that could be New England's 6th ring then. So obviously that's been a team need for a couple of years. But like I said about Cashman, and I'll say this about Howie Roseman, I mean, you draft well and you have these assets to be able to make your team better. And obviously with the Pittsburgh Steelers getting Minkah Fitzpatrick, they basically said, we don't think there's a player in the draft better than Minkah Fitzpatrick. Are there 2 players in this draft coming up this year and even next year with those 2 first-round picks that the Eagles could have parted with? I mean, Howie Roseman's got to be saying, well, I think I can make the team better through the draft this year and next year, not pulling off this trade. As for the LA Rams, just we're in win now mode. We lost the Super Bowl last season. We really want to go for it even at 3-3. We still believe we're in this. I mean, I think Howie Roseman had a golden opportunity to really put this team, who are neck and neck with the Cowboys right now. Like, they're both 3-3, and this is the Sunday nighter this weekend. I mean, that could have really scared the Cowboys this weekend at home had Jalen Ramsey been on the other side, because Dak Prescott has not played well the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that as well about Howie Roseman, that he just missed the boat on this, even though there maybe still be other corners available? Or do you think maybe that if you can get Patrick Peterson, say, for a second or third round pick, or Chris Harris Jr., that maybe that is the route to go, and maybe he still has an opportunity to redeem himself?
Like, it's hard to say, because if you just look to last year, the Eagles were in for Amari Cooper. They were offering a second round pick for the longest time, but the Oakland Raiders were like, no, we kind of want more. And the trade deadline kept coming and looming. And then the Cowboys swooped in and gave a first round pick. Mm-hmm. And then the Eagles were like, well, we'll just get Golden Tate for a third round pick. Well, if you remember, Golden Tate didn't really do all that much when he was in Philly.
No, it wasn't a fit.
No, it wasn't a fit. Didn't really work well. But I guarantee you, Amari Cooper would have fit in real well. Yeah. And it's just like, if Amari Cooper is a first round pick, it just like, and the thing I don't get is, like, just associate that first round pick with having 2 first round picks in his draft. Like, you know, like, he would have been your second first round pick in that draft in which he was drafted in, if you're trading a first rounder for him. Like, yeah. You're just like, I just don't get it. He is a first round pick. Amari Cooper is a number 1 wide receiver. We could have had him. And it's just like, Jalen Ramsey is a number 1 corner, if not like the best, if not the second best, still to Richard Sherman, who's been, you know, he's been like that lockdown guy, you know, Sherman Island again. But
you're gonna disrespect my guy, Stephon?
I mean, like, I like Gilmore, but I don't think he's one. I don't
man.
Too. I like him. I do. I think Richard Sherman is still, like, you know, you can't disrespect Sherman. He's been the guy.
No. He's a great corner.
And DeAndre Hopkins even said that Jalen Ramsey's like the best corner in the game. Like, and like, when DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best wide receivers out there, says that, I kind of have to go with that. And to me, it's just those two at 1, 2. Gilmore would be right there at 3. Like, you know, to me, he's clear cut 3. But anyway, it's just, I know the two first round picks for Jalen Ramsey might have been a lot, and I know Khalil Mack went for quite a bit as well. But look what Khalil Mack's done for the Bears, and Jalen Ramsey could have done that for your Eagles, especially when you have such a glaring need in the secondary. Like, it's not even.
It's obvious.
Yeah, it's not even like, oh, maybe they need it. No, it's like, your secondary sucks. It's awful.
Oh,
like,
it is. Brutal.
It's really bad, and the only player in the secondary is Malcolm Jenkins, and he's the free safety. It's like he can't make every play. Like, he's like helping the cornerbacks out. They have to shut down somebody eventually. So it's just frustrating to see that, especially last year when we could have had Amari Cooper and we didn't go for it, and then again this year we could have had Jalen Ramsey, didn't go for it. Maybe Patrick Peterson or Chris Harris Jr. is something we can look at, but to me it just feels like Golden Tate all over again. But, you know, Chris Harris Jr. is really good. Was really good, and so is Patrick Peterson. You know, the sex appeal for the guys isn't as great as Jalen Ramsey, obviously. But, like, you know, they're still really good guys and could help the glaring need. The other thing that's a really big issue with this team, not Howie Roseman, Jim Schwartz's defense has ranked in the past like 18 seasons. He's been a coach or defensive coordinator. I think it's like on average ranked 20th or lower in this pass, like against pass protection, or not pass protection, sorry, against the pass is always been the bottom of the league, the bottom like 12 of the league. So it also comes down to Jim Schwartz's schemes. It's like, even though he has like a good pass rush, the pass coverage has never really been good. So it might be a Jim Schwartz thing too. I've never really been a big fan of Jim Schwartz as a defensive coordinator. I know he was a head coach before, but like, I feel almost as if there could be someone better out there, but to change the whole defensive scheme would completely like ruin what the players have been doing for so many years. So it'd be kind of hard to do that. But I kind of hope that Howie's still able to go get somebody out, is still able to go get somebody maybe like a Pat Peterson, like I mentioned, or Chris Harris Jr. To really help out the secondary, because as of right now, it's kind of looking like there's no hope in sight for that secondary, even though Jalen Mills is coming back for the Week 7 game against Dallas.
So how much better, I mean, did the Rams just get? Obviously, they're defending NFC champions. They're 3-3 right now. The last few weeks have not gone their way, and it seems like they had a glaring need on the defensive side of the ball, because they've let a lot of points go up on the board. I mean, their offense has played relatively well a couple weeks. We remember the 55-point loss against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just a few weeks ago. So obviously there was somewhat of a need on defense for them as well. They're 3-3 right now, and in their division ahead of them is the front runner for MVP and Russell Wilson, and the only remaining undefeated team in the NFC with the San Francisco 49ers. How much better do you actually think the LA Rams just got? I mean, obviously they need to figure out this game plan because it clearly isn't working. They've lost, 3 games in a row now. Obviously, they need to turn things around really quick. I mean, some people have said this trade for Jalen Ramsey was maybe a desperation move, although I don't really see how people can think that because of how good he is. How much better did they just get considering those two things, that Wilson and the Niners are in their division and they're 3-3 right now? I mean, can they turn their season around and win the NFC West, or I mean, are those two teams ahead of them just too good?
It's kind of hard to say. I really think it's kind of difficult for the Rams to kind of like get ahead of the other two teams right now because like they've already lost to the Niners and they lost to the Seahawks. Like that's 2 divisional games you lost, and they're both above you already. Like their defense is. And I think their defense is already really good. Like I know Marcus Peters was kind of getting torched all season, but it's like you have Dante Fowler Jr., you have Aaron Donald, you have Clay Matthews, you have Eric Weddle, you had like you have Aqib Talib, you did have Marcus Peters, now you got Jalen Ramsey. It's like I don't know if the secondary was really their issue. Maybe it was more pass rush, but like even still, like I don't even know if that was it. It's just such more of a passing league now that it's kind of hard to just like stop the pass in general. Like I mean, it's not like you really see teams hold guys under 200 yards a lot, and like if it does, it's kind of like an aberration because like it's such a passer friendly league. It's just like I don't know if that was really their real weakness. And with the fact that they lost the Niners already and they lost the Seahawks, like if they won maybe one of those games, like I would be like, you know what, they probably have a chance, but like they're going to be vying for a wild card, and like they're going to have to probably be facing off against one of those two for the wild card, because at this point I don't think there's any way they can win the division with those 2 divisional losses and San Francisco being undefeated, as well as like Seattle like looking like one of the best teams in the league. Their offense has been really shaky. Like honestly, I know they put up like you said 55 against the Rams, but like Todd Gurley doesn't look like the same Todd Gurley we've seen 2 years ago. Jared Goff doesn't look like this, guy who can he doesn't look like the first overall pick. Like to me, no. He doesn't look like a quarterback like you took with the first selection in the first round. Like he doesn't look like the guy. He looks like a guy. And I don't know, for me, you gave a guy a lot of money, and I think that guy is the reason why you're not winning games. I think it's him missing throws, him feeling pressure in the pocket. He didn't produce in the Super Bowl whatsoever. He scored 3 points in the Super Bowl. At the end of the day, like that, I know you didn't have Cooper Kupp, but like it's not like Cooper Kupp is like Odell Beckham Jr. It's he's a good receiver, don't get me wrong, and any team would be lucky to have him, but he's not Odell, he's not Julio, he's not D-Hop. He's not the top of the list kind of guys. You still need to be able to get it done, and he put up 3 points in the Super Bowl and just looked abysmal. I know the Patriots defense was really good, and it still is, but I don't know if Jared Goff can really lead the Rams from this kind of hole they built themselves in to the playoff victory land, I guess.
Well, he got paid a lot of money. Like he was $34 million a year, and I mean he has not looked like the first overall pick, like you said. I've stood by this ever since the draft, man. I said Carson Wentz should have been the first overall pick. I stand by that. I don't even know if Jared Goff should have been the second pick. Zeke Elliott might have been the second pick, honestly, if he redid that draft. Zeke Elliott might have even been the first overall pick if he redid that draft, and Wentz would have been second. But I tell you one thing, if you
was in that draft too,
Jalen Ramsey was in that draft, he might have been the third overall pick. You never know. You got 3 really good players. Goff, Wentz, Zeke, Ramsey. I mean, we could go on, and Jared Goff was taken before all of those guys. And it just really hasn't looked like that pick has panned out. And I know he's played in the Super Bowl, and people can say that. But, I mean, it hasn't been a great start to the year. They looked really good at the gate at 3-0, but they've dropped 3 in a row. And, I mean, he's got to step up. I know Jalen Ramsey was a big addition. To have Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey in your backfield playing on the defensive side of the football on the same team is really scary and deadly for a lot of opponents. But the quarterback has to step up. Sean McVay has to step up as well. It's been a rough few weeks, but like you said, I mean, this has been a weird last few weeks for Jared Goff. He's had a lot of turnovers. I mean, the criticism of Baker Mayfield, that's kind of, I mean, Jared Goff in the last few weeks kind of been the NFC's Baker Mayfield. If you really look at it, it's been a guy that's made poor decisions, bad throws, and it just hasn't been pretty for the Rams. And I wonder what Jalen Ramsey can do for that team to going forward.
Yeah, they got a kind of a cupcake of a game this week against the Falcons, so everything should be righted, So I don't think we should really take too much stock in this game unless they come out and are really poor against the Falcons, because the Falcons are just straight doo-doo. But it's gonna be a good confidence boost, I guess, for the Rams this week when they play the clipped winged Falcons.
Well, it's funny. Speaking of doo-doo, the NFC East is a very weird division this year, man. I was really excited.
Screw you, man.
I was really excited for this division this year, and not so much the Redskins. I assumed the Redskins were going to be a team that probably picked in the top 5 or 6 this season. I really did not know what to expect from the Giants. I made a bold prediction that's come true, that Daniel Jones would win more games than Eli Manning this season, and I had nailed that one. But then I thought the most interesting rivalry in the league this year was going to have to be the Cowboys and the Eagles. I know that's been a rivalry for a long time. The two teams don't like each other. The fan bases certainly don't like each other. I mean, Philadelphia is another beast when it comes to fans. But this is a rivalry. I thought these two teams are going to be neck and neck all season. I was thinking one's going to be 12-4, the other's going to be 11-5. It's going to come down to week 16 or 17. Loaded rosters, and here we are at 3-3. From on the Dallas side of things, it was a really good start against really poor opponents. Now that they've gotten some competition, it all seems to come down, and they lost 2 in a row, but then they had a miserable loss on Sunday against the Jets. The Eagles, it's been some signs of life and some no signs of life. It's been some inconsistency, I would say I'd call it. 1 week they look really good. Another week, just kind of things aren't clicking. Like you mentioned the Aguilar catch a little earlier. And then on Sunday, I don't even know what happened. It was almost like they just left their defense in Philadelphia when they traveled to Minnesota. Weird division this year, though. What do you make so far of 3-3 teams to 2 teams that we were both talking about at the start of the season had Super Bowl hopes, and here we are at 3-3, and my God, I mean, I guess one of them has to make the playoffs. I never thought of that. I'd say that about those 2 teams.
Honestly, it's been really frustrating, especially with the offense. Deshaun Jackson being injured for now coming up on 6 weeks, and it's he's probably not going to play in this game against Dallas either, is really frustrating. It adds to the offensive struggles of there's no deep threat on this team, so they don't have to have that safety over the top for a lot of these guys, and they can load more guys in the box, taking out those short routes, taking out the running game. And I know Jordan Howard's been our best back, and I know Miles Sanders has had, it's crazy, the longest passing plays we've had this year have all come from Miles Sanders, a running back. And our wide receivers, Alshon Jeffrey's not a speed guy. He doesn't get down the field. Aguilar, I don't know what Aguilar is, because if he's not a speed guy, he's sure as hell not a possession guy. And he's not one of those guys that goes up and gets the ball. So it's just I don't know what he is, because it just seems like he's just out there to be out there. Zach
Weird
Ertz,
season for him. He was a guy I thought would really take the next step.
Number 86, Zach Ertz. Future Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champ, Zach Ertz. Best tight end in the league, Zach Ertz. Most catches by a tight end in NFL history in one season, Zach Ertz. But my guy fumbled at the end of the game last week against Minnesota when we were kind of driving to kind of get back into the game, even though it was very unlikely. He still had a very big fumble. He also just dropped a bunch of balls. That's been I don't know if anyone has had more drop balls this year than Carson Wentz, because if you go to a lot of these plays where it's oh, maybe the defender got their hands up and deflected the ball, they go to the slow motion replay and it goes right through the receiver's hands, or it goes right off the receiver's hands. And I'm just I get it if it would happen once a game, maybe even twice a game, but it's happening 3, sometimes even 4 times a game. And it's just like Carson Wentz, it'll look like we went 16 for 32, but like he'll have like 10 drop passes. And it's like 26 for 32 is not that bad. Like instead, like it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to watch these receivers like drop balls, and it's just like a collective. I think it's really down to like the offensive coordinator. Like obviously you can't calculate for drops or fumbles. Like that's just stuff that's going to happen in game. But the offensive scheme has like really just not clicked ever since Frank Reich left. And I don't think people really realize the impact that Frank Reich had, because if you look how Andrew Luck did under Frank Reich for the short little bit that he was there, and now I'll look at Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett's playing like a really good quarterback, and like nobody thought Colts were going anywhere, and they went into Kansas City and beat Kansas City. Their defense is good. The offense is good with Jacoby Brissett. It's Frank Reich. It's one of the reasons I don't like the Patriots on top of that, because Josh McDaniels couldn't just take his job as Indianapolis's head coach, and we had to lose Frank Reich because of it. Yeah. So dumb. It's like, oh yeah, I'll be your coach, and then it was just like, nah, I'm not going to be your coach. And then like they were like Frank Reich, and like of course he's going to take that. Like no one's not going to take a promotion. Like anyone's going to take the head coaching job, but except for Josh McDaniels, because apparently he thinks he's going to be the head coach of the New England Patriots one day. Anyways, I think it really comes down to Frank Reich leaving. The offense just hasn't been the same since the 2017, even 2016. The offense was still pretty good. It was like the defense was really bad. It was Carson Wentz's first year, but he had a major impact on how the offense flowed. And I don't know whether it's our running backs or our offensive line. The running game really hasn't like broken open. Like we haven't really had that like dominant rushing game where we have like 200 yards rushing. Like I know we did kind of have that against Green Bay, but like I want to see like Jordan Howard go off for like 130 in a game, or Miles Sanders, like either or, like and it's just like it's not clicking there for us, and it's just really frustrating to watch because it's just inconsistent, because you'll see glimpses of it and then it just disappears. Like the Eagles were down by like it was like 21-10 or 28-10, something like that, and before the half I think it was 28-21. I don't think the Eagles like really scored points after that. They scored another touchdown after that, and that was it. They lost like 38-28 or something like that. I don't really remember the game. I think it was 38-20. That's what it was. It was 38-20. Yeah. It was. Yeah. I think the Eagles had 17 going into half, and the Vikings had 21. I think that's what it was. Anyways, as for the Cowboys,
brutal. They're brutal. Like honestly, I go back to my Dak Prescott rant a few weeks ago about not paying him. Yeah. I mean, this is exactly what I was saying. Like he's asking for $30-40 million a year. He's a good quarterback. Like I'm not saying that. I've never once those words have not come out of my mouth that he is a bad quarterback, because quite frankly I think that would be very unfair to say. However, he is not a top-tier quarterback. You can't put him in the top tier with like Mahomes, Brady, Breeze. I mean, I could go on. I can name 12 quarterbacks probably better than Dak Prescott. He's kind of a middle-of-the-pack guy. He's asking for $30-40 million. He has beaten poor teams. He's even lost to a poor team in the Jets. I mean, Sam Darnold hadn't played in 5 weeks. He comes off mono and outplays Dak Prescott at home. I get they're at home and they're on the road, and the Cowboys are on the road. But you're still playing the Jets, a team that has not won a game yet this season. I mean, whoever's calling plays for this Cowboy team, man, needs to give their head a complete shake, because you have Michael Gallup, Zeke Elliott. I mean, Amari Cooper got hurt. You have Randall Cobb, and Jason Witten is your go-to guy to tie the game. Father Time Jason Witten is your go-to guy to tie the game. You got 3 options I just named, and if Amari Cooper was healthy, you have 4 options. But you're going to Jason Witten to win that game. If it's Kellen Moore or Jason Garrett calling plays, they really need to give their head a shake on that one. That was I was sitting here watching, and I'm like you don't want to win the game? You want to be 3-3 at the end of this? Like, what's going on here? And I tell you one thing, man, this is a big game on Sunday between the Eagles and the Cowboys. The Eagles, for me, I mean, they're in the clear right now for me, because they have a few really tough games over the next 4 or 5 weeks. Like I believe they got the Seahawks and the Patriots somewhere in the next 5 weeks.
Yeah. They have the Bears as well.
Yeah, and they have the Bears. So those are 3 games that could really go either way for the Philadelphia Eagles. They could either lose all 3, they could win all 3, they could win 1 or 2. Like the Eagles are going to compete in all 3 of those games. But then Cowboys, you go to the back end.
Yeah, they got Cowboys, Bills, Bears, and then they got the bye, and then it's Patriots, Seahawks, and then it's Dolphins, Giants, Redskins, Cowboys, Giants.
the Philadelphia Eagles with that schedule could win their last 4 to 5 games in a row. So once they get by the Patriots and the Seahawks weeks there after the bye, they are basically in the clear till the end of the season. Like, they could go undefeated. Like, I mean, we're going to give the Patriots and the Seahawks that respect, and not because I'm a fan of the one, but because if they can go anywhere and win, Russell Wilson's probably the clear-cut favorite to win MVP right now. But the Dallas Cowboys have not shown me that they could even win on a schedule like that. Like Daniel Jones could come to Dallas or could host them and beat them at MetLife Stadium. If Jason Garrett loses this football game on Sunday, Monday morning, I think Jerry Jones needs to deactivate his key card to AT&T Stadium. I am at a point right now where if you can't beat the Eagles at home, and this is not a shot at Doug Peterson, this is not a shot at Carson Wentz, but if you want to win a Super Bowl, and you're talking about a Super Bowl with these guys, and you can't beat your division rival at home on primetime, I'm out. And this is kind of where I'm at with Dak Prescott is, I said to you a few weeks ago, and I think you agreed with me, that I would not pay this guy yet. He has not beat a Super Bowl contender. If he goes to Foxborough and beats Brady, he goes to Mercedes-Benz and beats the Saints, he beats the Eagles at home, I'm all for it. Pay the guy. But he has not shown me he can do that yet. He lost to Aaron Rodgers at home off a bye week in the playoffs a couple of years ago. He lost on the road to Jared Goff last year. He put up 3 points in a Super Bowl. This guy's contract needs to start with a 2. It can't start with a 3 or a 4, man. He is not – going into the offseason, what's stopping the Cowboys from considering, is Marcus Mariota a better option for us this next season? Give him an offensive line, give him some protection, give him Zeke Elliott, give him a number 1 receiver in Amari Cooper. I mean, am I wrong on that? He has not shown me that he is any better than that option. He is what he is.
Yeah. No, honestly, from my perspective, I love it. The Cowboys, the more they see, the better. I love it. I love watching that train wreck. Okay, let me tell you, it was my birthday on Sunday, and I was watching my Eagles, and it was kind of depressing watching them. And then so I kind of took a nap as the Cowboys game started because I was like, oh, Dallas versus the Jets, this is a real snooze fest. Dallas is probably going to win by 30 points. So I kind of took a nap, and then I woke up intermittently through it, and I saw it was 3-0 Jets. And I was like, okay, they kicked a field goal, whoa, big whoop. And then it was 6-0 Jets. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever, touchdowns. And then it was 9-0. I was like, wait, what? Okay, whatever. And then when I woke up, I saw it was 21-3, and I was like, what? The Jets are winning this game? What is going on?
And Sam Darnold throws an 80-yard touchdown.
Yeah, I was like,
where's your secondary, boys? Maybe you guys should have got Jalen Ramsey.
Something must have happened. I was like, Dak Prescott got injured, Zeke got injured, tore their some of them's one of them's out of the game for sure. Nope, both of them are still in the game. I'm like, I don't understand what's going on, but I love it. It's I remember watching that, and then of course the Cowboys start charging back because the Jets suck, and so they start driving down the field, and then it comes down to that 2-point conversion to tie the game, and I'm watching it, and I'm just like, oh, Jason Witten's open over the middle, and he throws it to Jason Witten, and I'm just like, oh no, they're gonna do it, aren't they? And then it doesn't happen, and I was just like, there is a God up there, because if my Eagles had to lose, at least the Cowboys lost to the Jets, because that was hilarious. And all these Cowboy fans, oh, that was PI. It was do you see how many penalties you got driving down the field on that drive that benefited you? And it's just then the one you don't get, which is for the 2-point convert, now you're complaining about it. It's just okay.
If you want to feel bad for a team with penalties, feel bad for the Detroit Lions.
Oh,
Don't feel bad for the Dallas Cowboys.
They got robbed.
They got robbed. You guys did not. You guys failed on opportunities and let the Jets go up by almost 20 points. Yeah. A team that didn't have their star quarterback for 5 weeks with mono and hasn't won a single game all season, and you go to their house and just stink up the joint.
Yeah.
And your division rival in Philly, your team, punish them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they did have Luke Falk as the starting quarterback, so I mean, I'm not going to give too much credit to the Eagles on that one, because they should have done what they did, so I'm glad they did. But
Darnold's been sick for 5 weeks.
Yeah, that is true.
If he has been playing all season, it's a different story. The Jets were probably a team that could have been a wildcard team had he been healthy all year. But he's been at home on a couch recovering for weeks, and he comes in and he looks like Tom Brady the second.
Yeah. It was great. It was just great to watch. But this game coming up for the Eagles and Cowboys obviously is big because one goes to 4-3 and the other one goes to 3-4, and you're 2 games up at that point. And it's something that like you said is like it's a really season defining kind of game, which nobody really thought. People thought like maybe like both teams would be like 4-2 or maybe like 5-1 at this point. So like maybe it wouldn't mean as much as it does, but I mean obviously it means a lot. But like this means a lot at this point. This is between going above 500 and below 500. So I mean, for the Cowboys, it's like Amari Cooper is probably not going to play in this game either. So it's kind of like, I mean, this is what Dak Prescott is. If you need him to win a divisional game like this, where it's the top team against the top team, and you can't do it, I mean, it's just like you can't justify paying that guy that much money. And I don't think Jerry Jones wants to. Like, as much as Jerry Jones wants the Cowboys to win and he wants to get that another Super Bowl, I think in the back of his mind he really does not want Dak Prescott to do well, because I don't think he's ever really been a Dak Prescott advocate, and I don't think he's ever really wanted to pay Dak Prescott, and that's why he hasn't been paid yet. We'll see how this game goes. I'm excited. I think the Eagles are going to win it. We just got more options on offense, and like I think our run defense has been pretty good all season. Obviously, our pass defense has been atrocious, but when they don't have Amari Cooper, I'm not as worried about the Dallas Cowboys passing game as with Amari Cooper, because obviously he torched us for like 219 yards and 2 touchdowns last time. And honestly, the Eagles' schedule going forward, now I know they play some tough teams here. Like they got the Cowboys, which they could lose, like obviously, but like if they win against the Cowboys, theoretically, not saying this is going to happen, they could win out. And I'm going to tell you why they could win out like from here on. They might not lose another game, because then they go at the Bills. The Bills don't have an offense. They have a great defense, but they have 0 offense. And like Philly's not scared of playing in the cold. Philadelphia's cold. Like there's no like real distinct advantage there other than it's a home game for Buffalo. They have no offense. I'm not scared of Josh Allen throwing it deep. I know he can throw it a mile, but like he's got no one to throw to, especially after they traded.
Yeah, there's a lack of weapons there.
Yeah, and then they go home and they play the Bears. Is Mitch Trubisky gonna play?
We're not sure. Even if he does, what is it?
Even if he does, is he really that good? We've beaten Mitch Trubisky before. Like
is he going to throw 350 or is he going to throw 50?
Yeah, exactly. Not really scared of the Bears on offense there. Then we get the bye week, so we get to rest up, maybe get some players healthy. Then we get the Patriots at home. Now, this is a big game, obviously, because, the Patriots are the Patriots. They're the best team in football. But, like, Tom Brady and the offense hasn't looked that great. Once again, it's another team that's, like, all defense, and the offense has not been that stout. Other than that, like, first game where they put up 33, it's just, like, has the offense really clicked? Like, you're the guy who watches Patriots games every day. Like, you tell me, has the Patriots offense looked that great?
It's been inconsistent. Yeah, I would say it's been like there's some drives where they really go down the field and they click, and I mean Tom throws 60 yards, 4 for 4, and they hit a touchdown or whatever. But then there's other drives where they're just like bam, 3 and out, and he missed a couple throws or he turns the ball over, and I mean it's kind of one of those things where you trust him in the moment, but I mean at 42 years old, there's been 2 or 3 times this year where he's really looked 42 years old. I'm not going to lie. And I mean, there's been other times where he's looked 30 and he looks really good. But I mean, like you said, though, I mean, the defense has been a big component as to why they are 6-0 so far. I mean, it hasn't really been the offense.
Yeah. So like, that's the thing. So it's like and that game's at home too. So it's like they come off a bye week. They don't have to travel and they're not going on the road. They're at home. So that's big. I could see the Eagles winning that. I could, obviously, just because I'm not so scared of the Patriots offense more than their defense, which is really, really, really good.
Yeah, they're going to have to be all over Wentz that day to win that game.
Yeah, and then after that, at home, again, we got the Seahawks. Now, Russell Wilson on the road versus Russell Wilson at home is very different. Still great. Don't get me wrong. Russell Wilson's really great. That's the one game where I could realistically see the Eagles having a really hard time winning that game, because Russell Wilson and Seahawks look like they're clicking on like next levels. But once again, a home game, I'm never going to say the home team doesn't have a chance of winning that. Then it's the Dolphins. I don't need to explain that. The Giants. I don't think Daniel Jones is that great. I think he's better than Eli, but there's no options offensively for them. And then like their defense is like a joke. The other thing I did want to kind of bring up is like Tom Brady and the Patriots didn't really look that good against Daniel Jones and the Giants for like the first half, and then they finally took off and exploded afterwards.
Yeah, see, I didn't think Brady looked as bad as some people say he did. I mean, I know there was a couple times where it was like, where's he throwing that one? But I mean,
there's one play to Edelman that sticks out in my mind where he cuts left and Brady throws the ball right.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not really gonna hang a guy for a bad game though on one throw. I mean, we can criticize that throw and I'll side with you, but hey man, he still threw 340 and had 2 rushing touchdowns. So I mean, hey man, as long as the guy keeps winning, I keep telling people this. As long as this guy keeps winning, keep him in there.
That's what I mean. Like I'm just all I'm saying is like if he got off to a slow start like that, I don't think my team would like let them hang around still. I feel like the Eagles would be scoring touchdowns and not, going 3 and out like the Giants were.
I will side with you if you guys get Patrick Peterson or Chris Harris Jr.
Fair enough. Then it's the Redskins. Once again, they're a joke. Don't need to explain that. Then it's the Cowboys, another tough one, but this one's at home for us, so I like that. And then it's at the Giants. Once again, I don't think the Giants are that good. Realistically, we won't win out. But there's
10 games. So 10 games.
Mm-hmm.
You have 2 quarterbacks to worry about, Tom Brady and Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, the Eagles have the better quarterback in 8 of their final 10 games.
Yeah.
The clear-cut better quarterback, we'll say.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's like I'll take that every day. I'll take the better quarterback every day for any of those games. And like you said, except for 2 of them, like where it's Brady and Russell Wilson, that's where we're just gonna need the team to just step up. And like you kind of got to do that when playoffs roll around anyway. So, I theoretically out of those 10 games, I could see us, like you said, going 8-2. I could see us going 10-0. Obviously, that's a little bit optimistic, but realistically, I could see an 8-2 during that stretch.
I just got a text from my better half saying she thinks I'm trying to be Stephen A. Smith out here. So maybe I should bring it down a little bit. We'll move on. Interesting game, though, and I stand by this. If the Cowboys lose on Sunday for the Eagles, man, they got an easier schedule. Like they get the Patriots at home. The Cowboys have to go to Foxborough.
Yeah.
I think this is a bigger game for the Cowboys than the Eagles because even if the Eagles lose on Sunday, I have faith that with the last few games that you just mentioned, the last 5 or 6 games, they could have an easy clear cut. If they're only behind the Cowboys by a game or 2, they could easily overtake the NFC East. If the Cowboys lose on Sunday, man, Jerry Jones really has to look at himself in the mirror and say, is Dak Prescott my quarterback? And I seriously think he needs to consider Jason Garrett's future. Why not give Kellen Moore the final 10 games of the season? They're really high on him. They like him as their offensive coordinator. They like his play calling abilities. Why not see what you got in a head coach in Kellen Moore for 10 games, a very big sample size, and then you go in the offseason and say, Lincoln Riley, Josh McDaniels, like where are we with these guys, right? Because I do not think Jason Garrett's the guy for the future. But a couple of last things before we move on from football. We're going to talk about baseball and hockey here shortly. What's going on with the Browns, man? You and I, neither of us picked them to win the division. I don't believe so, at least. Or was that Troy that picked them to win the division? I can't remember.
I think I picked the Steelers.
Yeah, so, yeah, I picked the Steelers too. But we got to pass on that one because we assumed that Ben Roethlisberger was healthy. We did not know. Man, just Baker, man. The OBJ and him don't seem to be on the same page. Freddie Kitchens really looks like a rookie head coach. The defense has been a lot up and down. What's going on with Cleveland, man? They are not the team. We heard Super Bowl contenders, and they were like the 5th or 6th best odds. They might be the 5th or 6th best odds to get the first overall pick.
You're not too far off of that. I think it's something that we hadn't seen in a while because a lot of these players just have been just really like great. But the sophomore slump, like it was a legit thing. Like, it used to happen to guys like, their rookie year, they'd come out and look and they ball out. And then the second year, defenses would get their tape. They would know how to stop them. They'll know what their tendencies were and they'd shut them down. And I don't think
Dak Prescott.
Exactly. I don't think Baker Mayfield is one of those special quarterbacks. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he has the ability to be the Cleveland Browns quarterback for a long time, but he's also the other thing that doesn't help him is he talks too much. Like just shut your mouth, talk about the game, and go play football. Like I know there's some guys out there that just want to like run their mouth and like they want to be, they want to have that sound bite. Like they want to be the guys that create sound bites or create clips. But all that does is motivate guys more. And I know people say like what they needed more motivation to play the game. It's like, you know what? They didn't need it, but it's just extra fuel to the fire. You could have a fire that's burning perfectly well, but if you throw a can of gasoline in there, it's gonna burn more. Like it's just that's just how it works. The biggest mistake I think they made was before the season started when they decided not to go with Greg Williams as their head coach, because with Greg Williams as their head coach, that's when the Browns were really clicking. The defense was unstoppable. Baker Mayfield was throwing all those was just tearing it up and throwing touchdowns, and like Jarvis Landry looked good, and because Greg Williams has inspired that Jets defense. I don't know if you've noticed, the Jets defense is really good.
It is. They weren't 0-5 because of their defense. They were 0-5 because of their offense and no Darnold.
Exactly. It's he I know he had Bounty Gate in New Orleans, but like whatever he's doing now that's not Bounty Gate is clearly working because the guy knows how to coach defense. He knows how to get players inspired. And I think that was a real mistake. Because Baker was the one who was like, yeah, I like Freddie. Freddie should be our head coach. Like that's who I'm voting for, as the head coach of the Browns. And like a rookie quarterback making that decision already for your franchise, like once again, just goes to show the ineptitude to me of the organization that is the Browns in general, like from ownership all the way down. Like to me, I don't give a crap what my rookie quarterback has to say about the coach. Like if you like him or not. Like if Bill Belichick was available, I'm not going with Freddie Kitchens over Bill Belichick because Baker Mayfield likes Freddie Kitchens. Like, no, I'm sorry, that's just not what I'm doing. I'm going with Bill Belichick. I'm not saying Greg Williams is that, but it's just like the fact that he had that much of a say in like the head coaching decision is just kind of silly to me because the players don't run the players should not be the ones making those kinds of decisions because they're not qualified for that. They play quarterback, and I know there's people that they like, but it's just that decision making should not be made by them. The other thing too is like you said, Odell, I don't know whether it's game planning, the fact he's being double teamed. It's not something like that would be new to him. I don't know what's not clicking there. I feel like Odell's never not open. Like, you could throw the ball up, he'll jump up and get it with one hand, one pinky, a fingernail. Like he'll catch the ball. It doesn't matter. Jarvis Landry, you'd think would be wide open over the middle a lot of the time because, everyone's going for Odell, and Jarvis Landry is a legit number one wide receiver as well. David Njoku, like their tight end isn't like not really showing up. Nick Chubb has been balling out. I'll say that. Their running back's been really good, but it just seems like to be a culmination of just like when their offense doesn't click, their defense doesn't get inspired to like play well, and then it just like kind of falls apart. I really don't know what's not clicking with this team, and it might just be a youth thing, to be honest. Like there's no real veteran presence in there. Like Joe Thomas kind of was that for the Browns for a long time. Obviously, he retired a couple of years ago, but I can't really think of a veteran guy that's been there and won games, been to the playoffs and can really rally the troops because like Baker hasn't won anything, and like I know the quarterback is usually supposed to be that guy, but it's just like I don't know, like if you don't have a guy that's been there and done that, like it's hard to get them out of this hole. And I just think Freddie Kitchens is just looking as an abysmal pick for your head coach.
Well, my problem with Baker so far is, and I've noticed this in his career, is he says last week or a couple weeks ago when him and Rex Ryan had that little feud that if you're not in the brown and orange or you're not in this building, I don't care what you say. But it's like, Baker, you're responding to Rex and his criticism calling you overrated. Every week you're looking at Colin Cowherd's Twitter and responding to his criticism of you. You look at, I'm not to compare these guys, but like, so your Eagles, Carson Wentz, how many guys around the league have said this guy's injury prone and they made a mistake moving off of Nick Foles? And Carson Wentz has addressed that how many times? Nah, I don't think I've ever actually heard him respond to that. He's just like, whatever, I'm going to vote.
Just look at ESPN's like YouTube page and just search Carson Wentz. It's all Carson Wentz. We should have went with Nick Foles, Carson Wentz criticism.
Yeah. You look at Aaron Rodgers, and people bring up his family and what kind of teammate he is, and he's just like, whatever, man, I'm just going to go out and practice, and we're going to try and win this Sunday. Tom Brady's been dealing with this cliff thing with Max Kellerman and Rob Parker for 5 years now, and he just keeps playing in the Super Bowl every year. And maybe they poke fun here and there, and they're like, hey, remember the Cliff theory, or remember when you criticized McNamara, like whatever, right? But Baker just seems to let this bother him. He's all over Colin Cowherd. Him and Odell Beckham Jr. tweeting at a Fox Sports analyst criticizing their opinions. Boys, go out and prove him wrong. Go out and show him that you are a true number one receiver. Go out and show him that you are the quarterback of the future and you can win a Super Bowl and what he's saying, because that's what he wants you to do. Like, they're responding to this guy day in and day out, and like when you should be watching film, or you should be saying, how do I beat the team that we're playing on Sunday? But you're responding to all these guys and letting the outside noise after you said about Rex Ryan, I don't care about the outside noise. Well, clearly you do. And it's to the point you said with the youth. I mean, it almost feels like it's like kids playing against men. It's almost like, the Ottawa 67s playing against the Pittsburgh Penguins in a sense. Like, these are not grown. They almost feel like they're teenagers playing against their parents in a pickup football game, and the parents just have way more experience and are way smarter than the kids are, and the kids just have not grown up yet. And I feel like that's kind of the problem in Cleveland right now, and that's what I've seen from Baker, is he's just letting a lot of outside noise bother him and get to him when he should be focusing on football and not letting that outside noise, and he should really start taking after those other veteran quarterbacks instead of, even like a guy like Carson Wentz, like I said, not letting that. He's like, whatever. If you think I'm overrated, let me show you why I'm not overrated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, like, Carson always says, like, I'm not here to talk about that. Like, it's just like, that's for you guys to talk about. I'm not really going to speak on that. Like, Carson Wentz, when they bring up Nick Foles, it's just like, Nick's a great guy. I respect, like, the wisdom.
He's a good teammate. He helped me advance my career.
Yeah, that's about it. Like,
he helped me become a pro.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he doesn't talk about criticism like that. It's just like he owns when he makes mistakes. Like, I got to be better. I got to do this. I got to do that. It's never like a blame game or anything like that. So I don't know. To me, it just really revolves. Like, I mean, Baker's just got to like not fold when games like get out of hand. If they get down by like 13 points, 13-0, like, don't just go and hide in the corner and be like, well, this game's kind of out of there, so I'm just gonna throw this ball away. Or it's just like, if a guy's not open, I'm not gonna get frustrated and just try and force it somewhere else. It's just like, I don't know. It's like you said, it's very childish. You just gotta, kind of buck up.
Last question about football before we move on, man. We got baseball and hockey to talk about still, but are the Packers for real, do you think? They're 5-1. They had a couple calls and a couple bounces go their way Monday night against Detroit. Their only loss so far is to the team on your head and your chest. And the Eagles, for those of you who watch on YouTube, you can see that. Anyone listening on iTunes and SoundCloud, you can't see that. What do you think about the Packers so far this year? Like, Aaron Rodgers has been, everyone I've talked to has said, well, Aaron Rodgers has just been the message seems he's just been good enough for them to win. And he hasn't really stood above and beyond, kind of like we've seen Aaron Rodgers in the past do. Do you think this Packers team with Matt LaFleur as their new head coach and, Aaron Rodgers looking like he's 100% for the first time in about 2 or 3 years, do you think this is a team that's for real and could contend for the Super Bowl, or do you still maybe think it's a little too early to tell what the Packers really are?
I think this team is the real deal, and I'll tell you why I think they're the real deal. Even though the refs really won them the game last on Monday night against the Lions, they're still winning games without Davante Adams, and that's the big thing for me. He's their number one wide receiver, and he hasn't played in these games. And there's a lot of spots where Aaron Rodgers is looking to throw the ball to these guys, and like they're dropping them, and that was very evident in the Detroit game where he hit a guy who then slipped, and the ball hit him in the face, and it popped up, and it went for an interception going the other way. And it's just like Davante Adams wouldn't slip. Even if he did slip, he still would have made the catch, or he wouldn't have popped it up, and like it wouldn't have become an interception. Yeah. Their running game looks legit. They've never had this kind of running game ever, like since Aaron Rodgers has been the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. It's always been like basically Rodgers throw the ball as far as you can for as long as you can. Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams have looked like a really good tandem running back combination. The defense is like the best the defense has been since Aaron Rodgers won the Super Bowl. They're really locking up, and like I know Aaron Rodgers is maybe not looking like the Aaron Rodgers of old as he's getting up there in age, obviously, for a quarterback. But like I think this team is for real. When Davante Adams gets back, they're gonna click even more. I think as long as they can really control time of possession and really enforce their running game, their team is going to be a team to be reckoned with going throughout the season, because they'll just keep the ball away from you, and then when they need to throw it, they have like the best thrower of the football ever, Aaron Rodgers. Like, he's got arm talent out the wazoo, and when you need him to come through, he can do it. That pass he made, and I can't remember. I want to say it was Lavender, but I don't remember the guy's name. That touchdown throw he made to him in the corner where he just dropped it right into his freaking hands, like right at the sideline as he went into the end zone. Lazard, it was Lazard. That's who it was.
It always comes to you.
Yeah. That throw was just like, it was just so classic Aaron Rodgers. I just don't think anyone else could have made that throw. Maybe Tom Brady, but like it was just like one of those throws where it's just like you don't see that. You just don't see that, and it's just like anytime you have that guy, you always have a chance to win.
Yeah, I'm still kind of in a wait and see with them right now. I know they're 5-1 and they've looked really good. And like you said, this is kind of the first year Aaron Rodgers, it doesn't seem like he has to carry the load. It seems like he could have somewhat of an off game. And you know what? Maybe the defense picks him up. That was kind of like the story in week 1 where the Packers offense really wasn't clicking, but they were able to squeak out a 10-3 win because Trubisky was off and the Bears offense isn't as strong as some people think it could be. And you know what? There's been a couple games like that. Obviously, the one loss to Philly, it happens. But at 5-1, they look good so far, but I'm still just kind of, with the way the last 2 or 3 years went, I'm still kind of in a wait and see. Is Aaron Rodgers 100% healthy? And is this team for real, or have they just kind of gotten by the first half of the season? I guess that's kind of the wait and see approach that I'm taking. But that's football, man. On to baseball. I mean, friggin' awesome playoffs so far, man. Just phenomenal so far. I'm loving every second of this. But before we get to the playoffs, I want to ask you a question. We are in Canada. Obviously, the Expos are in the World Series. What's that? Oh, I'm being told that they're not actually the Expos anymore. My bad. Okay. Yeah, 2005. Are you 2005? Oh wow, I guess I'm a little behind. If you're the general manager of the Blue Jays, if you're Atkins or if you're Mark Shapiro and you're going into free agency this offseason, this is the Blue Jays have kind of the way they've drafted and they've signed players like Gurriel and Guerrero and drafted Bichette and Biggio. Obviously, the offense looks pretty set behind the plate. Jansen and McGuire looks like they've got their catching duo. And obviously, Grichuk signed long-term, and we're going to see, the center field position. But the pitching is obviously the need going into this offseason. It is noticeably the need throughout the season. I mean, I know they won 67 and 95 losses. Obviously, the pitching is the need for this team. If you're Ross Atkins, who would you make a priority this offseason? Would you go with a guy like Garrett Cole, who's having some playoff success right now and is obviously going to cost a pretty penny? Or would you maybe lean towards a guy like a Madison Bumgarner, who is a free agent this year, maybe isn't his best version of himself, but has that winning experience, has 3 World Series rings, brings a winning mentality, and has had great postseason success in the past? I mean, then there's options like Jake Odorizzi. Then there's Zach Wheeler. I mean, Marcus Stroman will be a free agent again next season, even though we traded him. Where would you go if you were Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro this year with the pitching? I believe Dylan Betances is also an option in relief. I mean, there's lots of avenues these guys can go, and they have said that the compensatory pick will not steer them away from any free agents, and financially, ownership is on board with the plan.
Honestly, Garrett Cole is my option. I love what he's done. If anything, I think he's been the best pitcher throughout these playoffs for the Houston Astros. The guy's like slider to two-seam, the thing I love now about technology is that you can see things like we couldn't even imagine before. And there's this new technology where you can see the pitch coming out of the pitcher's hand, and you can follow the ball, and then it splits off into 3 balls because it's 3 different pitches. Yeah. So it's just like you can see how the two-seam moves and breaks off towards the end. You can see how the cutter kind of comes away or comes in depending on.
It's a thing of beauty.
Yeah, and then like the slider, you can just see it move, and it's just like Garrett Cole's pitches all look the same until they break, and it's just like as a hitter, I don't know how you're supposed to know. Oh, that's the two-seam. That's the slider. That's the cutter. Like that's the fast. Like it's just amazing to me to what he's been able to do. I think it's time that like you need to spend money on somebody. I know we spent $50 million total on Randall Grichuk, but and I know we still have to pay Tulowitzki, but everyone else is making pennies on the dollar. And you need to spend money sometime if you want to be competitive, especially in the AL East. When you got the Yankees who have now been in the playoffs twice, you have the Red Sox who won the World Series last year, who are usually really good every year. You have the Rays who are now in the playoffs. I know they don't spend a lot, but they got a lot of talent on their
They
whole
draft
roster.
well. They make up for it drafting.
They do draft well. There's no doubt about that. It's Garrett Cole's probably the option I would go with. I don't see why not. Why not? I mean, I understand why they wouldn't go for Madison Bumgarner because he's older. He doesn't really have that dominant fastball anymore, and it's kind of hard to play in the AL East with these small ballparks with a DH in hitters parks. And unless you're like super crafty as a lefty,
which is more dominant righty too. Like your top hitters with Betts and Judge and Stanton and all those guys are all dominant right-handed hitters.
Yeah.
I'm not sure a lefty would want to come into a situation where he has to face those guys 20, 30 times a year in hitter-friendly ballparks.
Yeah, it's just like if the Jays think like they can add 2 pitchers and be, contenders, sure, go for it. Man, if they added Garrett Cole and Madison Bumgarner, I'm not going to be mad about it at all.
No.
But I don't think realistically they'll add both of them, let alone even one of them. I like knowing the Jays, Jake Odorizzi is more likely what they'll go with. And they'll call him an ace, even though he's like maybe a 2. But like I would consider him like best at 3. But they'll probably end up with like a Jake Odorizzi, honestly, maybe a Zach Wheeler, and like trying to get fans like hopeful about it because they've drafted pitchers and they're coming up through the system. Noah Syndergaard. But it's just like it's just kind of like one of those things where like in my head I have these like great wild like pictures of like Garrett Cole coming out onto the mound, and then the next game is Madison Bumgarner, and like the Jays are winning the AL East again like it's 2015. But it's more realistically like Charlie Montoya is now taking Jake Odorizzi out, so I don't know, like just like like somebody like they can throw in 100 miles Giles or Giles. It's which is more likely like going to be the case is like it's going to be one of the lower tier guys, and it's like it's not like it's a crazy free agent class, but it would be nice to see the Jays actually make a splash, because like I could easily see one of those guys going to like St. Louis or like LA decides to dip their feet in there or something like that.
It'll be interesting to see too if it could be a strong free agent class pitching wise, because one guy that's not really talked about a whole lot and has an opt out in his contract is Steven Strasburg. That could get interesting as well. But like you said, my problem with Jake Odorizzi with the Jays is if you have the resources and you're not scared of the compensatory pick, why not go after one of those top guys? I mean, you're going to have to pay a pitcher at some point. As we see in these playoffs with the Nationals especially, and with the Astros right now being up 2-1, we're going to talk about both those teams in a minute. They are pitching heavy. They got good players. Like, they have a good order for the lineup, but they are pitching dominant. And the Jays have the hitting nailed. It's kind of almost like you said, though, 2015-16. The Jays could hit the ball, and everyone could put the ball in play. What it came down to, though, was the Royals and then the Indians outpitched the Blue Jays in the ALCS. My problem with Jake Odorizzi is if you sign Jake Odorizzi and you say to the fans, this is our guy, he's going to be our opening day starter, and we're going forward with him at the top of our rotation, with Odorizzi specifically, why did the Jays not just keep Marcus Stroman at the trade deadline? Yeah, that would be my argument. Like, if you had Stroman and then you added Jake Odorizzi, you got two pretty good quality starting pitchers in your rotation at the top. And even like a Zach Wheeler. I agree with you. I think the Jays really need to find the resources, and they really have to go hard after one of these guys. It may come at the price where you were really only comfortable giving the guy 6 years. To get him to come to Canada, you might have to extend that to a 7th. But you know what? If you get a World Series out of it 2 or 3 years down the road, so be it. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the cost of if you want to win the World Series, as the Tampa Bay Rays and the Oakland Athletics have found out year in and year out, not spending money does not lead to a championship. Yeah. The teams that spend the money win the championships, and the teams like the Athletics, who, if they ever win a World Series, will create a Moneyball 2 movie with Brad Pitt. Those teams have constantly lost the final game of the season because the other team spent more money than them. Yeah. Like the Astros spent more money than the Rays. The Yankees spent more than the Athletics. Yeah. And that's why that played out that way, because they had the resources and the budget and the players to overcome the smart drafting.
You just look at what the Red Sox did last year. Like they just Chris Sale, David Price, like, it just like it didn't
Rick
matter. And
Porcello.
JD Martinez, like
Yep.
they didn't not spend like they Mookie Betts makes a lot of money. Like, it's just like Jackie Bradley Jr. makes a lot of money. It's like,
Yeah.
it's Xander Bogaerts too. It's just like they didn't cheap out, and like it clearly goes to show you like teams that don't like cheap out, usually win.
What's your moving on from the Blue Jays? It'll be interesting to see. Like I said, we'll have podcasts throughout the winter. We'll talk about free agency and where the team's head. And obviously, we're in Canada, so I always like to touch on the Jays. But your reaction to the Nationals, man. When Troy and I did our predictions, and I mean, I usually like to do a predictions episode before the start of the season. I hope to do an NBA one here in the next week. But the Nationals, I told Troy at the start of the year, I still thought this team was good enough to contend for the postseason. I thought, even though Harper left, they got a young phenom in Soto. They got and we just talked about pitching, Scherzer, Strasburg, two guys at the top of the rotation who Strasburg as your two could easily be an ace on 25 teams.
Yeah.
I mean, Patrick Corbin comes in, could be an ace on 10 or 12 teams. I mean, they took the resources when Harper left. Like, everyone thought, well, Harper left, they're screwed. They're done. Like, they're going to fall apart and tear it down, start the rebuild, start building around Juan Soto. And Mike Rizzo, the GM, said, hang on, let me take that $300 million we offered Harper. Let's spread it around a little bit. They upgraded their bullpen, Doolittle and Daniel Hudson. Got Patrick Corbin to be the third starter. Soto looks like he could be one of the best young players in the league. Like he's not quite Acuna, but he's trending upward, I think, in that direction. I mean, what's your reaction to this team from the news they got that Harper was signed with not even with another team, the division rival Phillies? Like he left you to go to the person that they told you not to worry about.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the way that one played out. Like, oh, don't worry about the Phillies. Don't worry. Oh, he signed with the Phillies.
Yeah.
Like, what's your reaction to this team just coming together as a group? And what does that maybe tell you about a guy like Bryce Harper, who's an elite player, box office player, a guy who you pay to go see? What does that maybe tell you about him?
I don't know if it really tells me a lot about Bryce Harper, as it tells me more about, or more or less confirms the fact that you need to spend your money wisely. Bryce Harper is an elite level talent. He's one of the best right fielders in the game. He's got an electric bat. Like the guy can hit home runs to the moon. But when you have that extra money to spend on like your relief pitching and your closing pitching and like even starting pitching and like other players, it's just like it. If you can, he's an A+, but if you can get like defenders, like really opens things up for other players, and he just has that ability to make other players better. And that's like why you see guys like James Neal, who are like scored 4 goals all of last season for Calgary, has now got like 5 or something like that. Like
he scored 4 in one game.
Yeah, it's exactly, that's what I mean. Like when you play with Connor McDavid, he just makes you better. James Neal is obviously a talented goal scorer, but yeah, I just don't think he had anyone in Calgary that could really like help him reach that. Also, that comes to James Neal. Like he's just got to be better, and he is being better now that he's playing with Connor McDavid. So it's for me, I believe that the Edmonton Oilers is a team that's going to keep playing this well. Obviously, I don't think they're going to go 5-1 every 6 games, but they'll be one of these teams that's going to be the top of the league for the majority of the season. Then.
Yeah, I just wonder how the rest of their roster is going to pan out. I mean, I have all the faith in McDavid. I have all the faith in Draisaitl. James Neal, I thought from the day that trade was made that was a good fit for the Oilers. And I think that was, of the bad contracts, we'll call them, between Lucic and James Neal, I thought if one guy was really going to get his career back in the right direction, it was going to be James Neal over Milan Lucic. I do think both guys need a fresh start because their current situations were not working out for either of them. And I really like that trade for Edmonton. I did not so much for Calgary. My only problem with Edmonton is how good is Darnell Nurse? I mean, Larson's out for a little while, I believe, with an injury. Is the goaltending tandem going to hold up? I mean, I know Mike Smith's on the back nine. He's a little older. And I'm drawing a blank. Sorry, forgive me, on the other goalie who Chiarelli signed for $4.5 million. But
I am too.
But anyways, my point is, I just wonder how long those two guys are going to be able to keep this success going, and how much longer that this team and this roster can really hold that together. And honestly, I kind of feel that way about Buffalo, because Buffalo does not have a true franchise number one goalie, in my opinion. And I feel like that's an area where they're going to continue to struggle until they address that need. Mm-hmm. And if they really want to start contending for a Stanley Cup and really take that next step to the point where they don't have to fire their coach again, and they don't have to fire their GM again, and hit another reset or a retool and get another top 5 pick, I feel like that's just going to continue to be the story for the Sabres until they address that need. But I think I'm going to agree with you, and that question is, I'm going to probably trust the Oilers a little more than I'm going to trust the Sabres. I mean, like I said, I feel like they're two similar situations, but I mean, Edmonton's got 2 guys capable of scoring 100 points season in and season out every year. They can just score 100 points. I believe they're the 3rd team in history that had 2 100-point players and they didn't qualify for the playoffs. I mean, that's crazy to say the least, but with a guy like James Neal playing with Connor McDavid, he really, truly does have a top 6 winger finally to play with. I know because Draisaitl's the 2nd-line center and doesn't sound like they're going to be playing a lot together. I feel like they could be a playoff team. As for a Stanley Cup contender, I feel like Ken Holland's still got his work cut out before we start calling them that. But they got the right guy at the driver's seat. Last one for you before we go, man. Quite the opposite for the Devils. Subban came in via trade. Taylor Hall's on an expiring deal. Jack Hughes was the 1st overall pick. Shaky goaltending. How long before this group hits the reset button? I mean, do you think they're going to have to trade Taylor Hall sooner than later? I mean, he's not going to want to commit to this long term if this is the way it's going to be.
I would have to say we might need to maybe around December, depending on how this team is going. Usually you see trades kind of happen around December. It's usually when before the trade deadline is when you kind of see trades happen in the NHL. It's usually December and then the deadline, obviously, and that's usually about it. You might see 1 or 2 throughout there, but it's really rare. This team, especially after getting Jack Hughes and having Nico Hischier, and Mackenzie Blackwood was supposed to be a good compromise to a compliment to Corey Schneider, and then you add PK Subban to your team, and it's just you think this team would be going up, not down like they have been, but it's just not working. I don't know why it's just not clicking there in New Jersey. And it's kind of unfortunate because I thought this team before the season was going to be one of the surprises. I really thought they were going to be good. I'm pretty sure I said that that was a team to watch out for this year.
Well, they got Wayne Simmons too, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, they have players.
Yeah, and I thought they were really gonna surprise, but right now they're kind of being, they're being worse than they were last year. I know it's only 6 games in right now, so it'll, it can obviously change. Like the Sens started one year 13-0 and didn't make the playoffs. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the season can change just like on a drop of a hat. Look at the St. Louis Blues like you said, last place in January. Then they were the Stanley Cup champions. So a lot can change. It's a little bit early. It's a little bit disappointing to see right now, but if it still trends in this downward position, I could easily see a guy like Taylor Hall being like, I just don't want to be here. I don't want to play for this team. I'm not going to sign long term here because you guys clearly don't like this. Just clearly isn't working. And I could see if, like I said, if it continues on this downward trajectory, that guys like Taylor Hall and other players could be like, yeah, I'm out of here, and they could hit the reset button for the team maybe this year or next.
Yeah, or this upcoming
offseason, the next one. Sorry?
It'd be interesting to see if Edmonton was in on Taylor Hall on a trade. Wouldn't that be interesting? Wouldn't that be interesting? All I'm going to say with the Leafs, man, is I was saying it while you're putting on your damn Sens jersey there. All I'm going to say with the Leafs is I have question marks in goal. I'm not 100% certain that Frederik Andersen's the goalie that's going to get the Leafs to the Stanley Cup. And if I have one Christmas wish and a New Year's resolution, can you please take Cody Ceci back?
No,
oh my God!
You forever. He is garbage. He is so bad, and it's so gratifying to see all these Leaf fans were like, "Oh, Cody Ceci, he doesn't have to be a good defenseman. He'll be a bottom six. It doesn't matter. He'll be the bottom pairing. Yada yada yada." And he plays.
That's what I thought he'd be. Yeah. Why is he playing with Riley? The guy he can skate. I'll give him this. He can skate. Like he's pretty quick with his feet.
Yeah.
Like he beat Ovechkin to a puck last night, and then he beat Backstrom to another one, and like he's beating guys to the puck left, right, and center. And I'm thinking, oh my God, here comes Cody Ceci. He's gonna skate around the net. He's gonna turn and go up, and we're coming back towards Hutchison. I'm just like, what? You can skate and that's it. Yeah. And it must be one of those things, because I heard this about Nathan Peterman with the Bills. He probably practices so well, but then when you put him against competition, man, he's so bad. You were so right. Yeah. Like the guy is a bottom six, like a bottom four defenseman in the AHL. Like he's not. He couldn't even be the top pairing on the Marlies. Yeah. Oh my God, let's go further. Could he even be the top pairing in an ECHL team? Like this guy, man. Like I said, he's skating last night. I'm like, wow, he's quick. He can move. Like, he might be their fastest skating defenseman, honestly.
Yeah.
But the hands and the stick and the hitting. Oh man, why this guy is on line one with Morgan Riley, who just posted a career year last year and is actually having a fairly good offensive season. But I feel like Morgan Riley can't play his style of game with that doo-doo, as you like to say, in the back. Like he probably skates up with the puck and he goes, "Here, Austin, Mitch, take this. I gotta go back and play for Cody."
Yeah, it's just like it's
frustrating.
He's been so bad for so long, and I've been saying it for so long that he sucks. He's just not good, and he has no business being on. Like I've said it for so long, and I felt like it just falling on deaf ears. You guys are like, you're only putting him in positions where he can't be successful. It's like he can't be successful in any position. It doesn't matter what position.
It's not even that. Now we're putting him in positions he can't be successful in. Why is he the first pairing defenseman? He's awful.
I love it. You guys took their garbage, and I was like, Zaitsev's bad, but he's not Cody Ceci bad. And,
I never thought I'd say this. Zaitsev's better than Ceci.
Yeah,
like, it's noticeably worse. Like I honestly would have just rather you get out of Zaitsev's contract for the next 4 or 5 years. Like I get that end of it, but like when you're talking about player for player and the cap hits the same for this season, you might as well have just not even made that trade. And Connor Brown's at an affordable rate. Like he's only a $2 million player for the next year or two. So I got to find out where Pierre Dorian and Kyle Dubas were that night, because whatever they were drinking when they made that trade, I don't want any part of it.
Well, I'm sure you know this, but Kyle Dubas did grow up a Sens fan, so maybe he was trying to help out the boys.
I didn't actually know that.
Yeah. So maybe that's
tomorrow morning. Well, man, I appreciate you joining me on episode 52. That was our longest podcast we've done so far.
Oh goodness.
But as always, man, we appreciate you coming on. You are my Adam Schefter, Elliot Friedman, and Ken Rosenthal. So I appreciate you coming on, man.
No problem. Thanks for having me, man. Always a blast.
That's episode 52 of Off the Clock. See you next time.